Good evening. Mitch Berg of Shotinthedark.info, also on the air here locally at AM 1280 The Patriot on Saturday afternoons. With my partner, Mitch Berg, who's over there someplace right there. You heard him speak earlier. We occupy like a 10-foot square booth on Saturdays, and he talks in the exact same manner in that little booth. So you can imagine how that is on Saturday afternoons.
It's true!
It's true! Now let's get something straight here right now for the media. I pay my taxes.
That's right.
You pay your taxes. We are law-abiding American citizens who support our country, and we don't have a problem paying taxes for legitimate purposes of government. That's a long tradition in the U.S., and it started 235 years ago. High taxes and high-handed governance by remote elites provoke Americans into asserting themselves, into assuming the mantle of self-governance. And our founders wrote the Constitution to ensure that this country never had to suffer under the rule of disconnected elites attempting to manage and tax every aspect of our lives. How's that working out for us? We were founded on the principles of private property and individual choice. Our forefathers went to Boston Harbor to throw tea into the sea rather than paying overbearing taxes imposed by a people who thought they knew better than the taxpayers themselves. Now, if that happened today, how would the media report that? The networks would lead with something like this. Violence broke out at a political rally today. MSNBC would report, tea baggers polluted the ocean and it's going to lead to colonial warming! And then Chris Matthews would come on, and he would explain that all of our unhappiness was due to the king not fully explaining the benefits of the social state. Joe Biden tells us that paying higher taxes is a patriotic duty. Now, I think our vice president means well. It's hard to tell, but I think he means well. But he seems to have missed a few days in American history class. Serving one's country is a patriotic duty. And thank you to the men and women who have served in our armed forces today. That's a patriotic duty. Serving in law enforcement, fire and rescue. Thank you for your service. Even good stewardship in public office can be a patriotic duty. And I'll tell you something else that's a patriotic duty. Voting is a patriotic duty. And Vice President Joe Biden will be happy to know that a lot more of us will be doing that patriotic duty this year. But paying higher taxes is not a patriotic duty, it's just bunk. Especially when the money goes to a Congress more interested in redistributing wealth than in working with the confines of the Constitution. Congress swore an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. We did not swear an oath to uphold and fund social engineering. Now, Gallup this week did a poll about taxes. They do this every year about this time. Now, I'm going to ask you to guess what percentage of people they found that believe that they pay too little in taxes. Anybody got any idea what the percentage was? Somebody said 3%. You obviously read hotair.com. Thank you, sir. Only 3%. That's it. 97% of Americans either believe they pay enough or too much in taxes already. And of course, that's only on those days when we can actually figure out how much we're supposed to pay. Does anyone know how big the current tax code is? Now, in 1955, you're getting close. In 1955, it was 700,000 words. 1955, 700,000 words. 50 years later, in 2005, the last time they counted it, they're still counting right now, but in 2005, they'd grown to over 7 million words. The tax code, the federal tax code in this country is over 7 million words. The IRS employs more people than the FBI and the CIA combined. Now, how many of you prepare your own taxes? How many of you do your own taxes no help? Well, okay, good for you. I can't. I can't do it. It's too complex. I pay an accountant a lot of money every year to do my taxes, and in fact, I just got done doing that. But the cost of tax compliance is not just how much we pay tax preparers for individual returns. Tax compliance is the cost to everyone in the entire economy for this Byzantine tax code. Does anybody have any idea how much the tax compliance is in this country? How much it takes out of our economy? $338 billion a year. $338 billion a year.
That's a crime!
That would equate to about 9% of our federal budget. Now, we know who pays the compliance costs for individual taxes. I mean, I paid for my taxes. I know what my compliance costs were this year. You know what your compliance costs were this year. Who pays for the compliance costs for business taxes and manufacturers' taxes and all those taxes? Who pays for that? You do, of course you do. And how do you pay for those taxes? At higher prices and higher burdens of regulation. We get to pay twice, isn't that nice? Now, I would say about 10 to 15% of you out there prepare your own taxes. Just based on the hands raised out there, 10 to 15% of you are able to do your own taxes. Does anyone have any idea how many people in Congress actually do their own taxes? I mean, these guys are supposed to be the experts, right? It was more than zero. It was one. And the person who did it happens to be the tax accountant. Now, today is tax day. And I know that a lot of you don't really like tax day. It's not really a popular day. Except we can come out here and talk about this. But at least we only have one tax day. Talk has begun in Washington about creating a federal value-added tax, or VAT tax, in addition to the federal income tax. Oh, see, you all read hotair.com, don't you? Thank you. What is a VAT? A VAT is a sales tax on goods and services taken out of our pockets right at the cash register. For those of you who do recall your American history, unlike our esteemed Vice President, think of it as a stamp tax. That was, as you recall, what started us on the road to declaring our independence in the first place. And why does Congress want to consider this new tax? Their big spending programs have bankrupted the nation. They are borrowing like mad from places like China, who obviously have our best interest in heart, right? China. To sell us programs like Obamacare and cap and trade. They offer us free services and then send us the bill later at the cash register. And then, when we point this out, what do the media and the entrenched elites call us? If we're lucky, they call us extremists and angry. In fact, you've got the media puzzled today. There are stories aplenty about how Democrats included some temporary tax relief in their stimulus bill and how the Tea Parties have misled you all. But they missed the point entirely. One-time tax credits don't fool anyone. While Democrats added over $1 trillion of new spending to the federal budget in just 3 years, from $2.77 trillion in fiscal year 2007, the final Republican budget, to over $3.8 trillion in fiscal 2010, we know what comes next. We know what comes next because somebody has to pay that bill. It's either going to be big tax hikes or brand new taxes to pay for it all, and my guess is it's probably going to be both. Gallup released another survey just today showing that you haven't been fooled at all. 63% of Americans expect tax hikes in the next 12 months. Only 6% of Democrats think taxes will go down. Think about that. This is the same party that's trying to insist that they've been cutting taxes all year long for you. Democratic Congress and the media are the ones that are trying to mislead you, and they're both feeling miserably because Americans are stupid. And we're not angry extremists either. We are the keepers of what's left of the legacy of our founders. We reject the elitism of those who would dictate our most personal choices based on the whims of bureaucrats in Washington. We reject the idea that government's purpose is to make arbitrary redistributions of private property. We emphatically reject the policies that have made this nation a debtor state on the verge of financial collapse, and we demand accountability from the elected representatives who have left us in this sorry state. That's a patriotic duty, and that's what I'm proud to carry out with you here today. Thank you for your time.
All right, make some noise for that right there. It's a great speech.